It's lovely to see everybody. I may have met some of you before on the session with Menna. So I'm Holly, and my role at Penguin is actually I lead ITT at Penguin, but I've been asked to sort of join this session today. And we have two amazing practitioners here that are going to spend some time talking to you about their own practice and learning from, I guess the idea is to learn from the practice of others. And that's kind of the setting really for this webinar tonight. We've got Victoria here that's going to talk to you a little bit about outdoor learning for the youngest age, so the babies, more like birth to twos. And then we've got Paul here, who's going to talk to you about his experiences and forest school experiences. So I wonder actually to start whether you guys want to just, I mean, most of you hopefully have met, but just in case, just give everybody a little bit of a rundown of who you are, where you work and things. That would be lovely. So if we start with you, Paul.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Paul. I am the Deputy Manager, the Forest School and Outdoor Learning Lead at the Children's Garden in Stamford, private nursery. We're primarily a Montessori nursery, but we also offer forest school all the way through from the baby room, but all the way through to the preschool year, who spend a year traveling on our wonderful Winther cargo bikes, 4 children in the bikes, and we go off through the local estate of the stately home and head off to the woods and have lots of fun. I absolutely adore forest school. I love, but even if you can't get to the woods, being outside is amazing. But I don't want to say too much about what I'm going to talk about later. So there.
Don't give it all away. Victoria.
Hi, hello. Yes, I'm Victoria Furness. Similarly to Paul, totally immersed myself in forest school when I became a parent and never looked back really, and left a very boring corporate career in order to set something up that wasn't in existence in our area, which was very much based on bringing babies from 6 months old through to children up to 18 really, and having an all through school in a woodland environment. It's something, there's not many places you can go where you can see young babies in a mixed age all outdoor environment, but it was something that was really close to my heart and something I felt was really important. So we set something up and it's been a real success and the community have really welcomed it. So it's not without its challenges, but you know, it's certainly rewarding.
Thanks, Victoria. That's quite interesting, actually. I've spent time in Reggio in Italy, and I was blown away by some of the practice there, where babies working up to with children up to about the age of 8, but they certainly don't go higher than that. So it'd be quite interesting to hear about that.
Hi everybody. As I said already, I'm Paul. Feel free during mine, if you've got any questions, just ask them as we go, because I think it's easier that way. If you've got thoughts, I'm terrible at trying to hold them in. So if you've got thoughts, just pipe up. I've called this just playing, just having a look at what the learning is while play is happening. It's often when the children are playing that quite often we will stop watching, but actually, if most of us in the early years, if we watch closely, this is where we actually see the magic happening. What I wanted to do this evening is slow these moments down a bit, look at what's going on underneath. Children are very good at making complex learning look like they're doing very little at all. I'm not going to delve into different activities or planning. I'm just going to show you some moments from my practice. and I'd like to just think out loud really about what learning we can see in those moments. So if we take this opening image, jumping in muddy puddles, I mean, it's instinctive. It's so basic play. Everybody does it. Everybody loves jumping in muddy puddles. But what do we see when we actually break down what the children are doing? There's all the physical development. There's the balance, the coordination, the core strength. There's that repetition and deep engagement. Have you ever seen a child jumping in muddy puddles and not be smiling? Everybody is always happy jumping in muddy puddles. And communication, even if it's non-verbal, there's so much happening. It's early scientific thinking. They're testing cause and effect. What happens if I jump harder? What happens if I splash here? Does the water come up the same way? Can I make it splash so high it gets my friends wet? And if we then link that into what we're looking at the EYFS, physical development, understanding the world, playing, exploring, it's all just comes from splashing in a muddy puddle. My slides do not have much text on. I'm sorry for those who like lots of reading, but it's not. There we go. I think there's 2 or 3 quotes through this that I particularly like. Play is a powerful tool enabling important learning that school curricula usually do not yield. Play is huge, and the only reason this slide is here is just so that I could have that quote next to it. But look at that face. If that is not a child that is fully engaged in doing it, I don't know what is. But let's look at this one. So this here, there's a following picture of the same child. It started off as trying to push the sticks into the ground, and if you imagine you've just got a twig in the forest, and it's quite hard ground. You can see there it's the sun in the background. It's not wet ground. It's quite dry. If you push it from the top, the stick snaps. It doesn't go into the ground. So just to get to this stage, the learning that's gone in, taken place of the trying, having broken a couple of sticks and working out, you see how close to the ground her hand is to be able to push it down without it snapping. It started off as pushing sticks into the ground. You see there what we've got 3 in the ground there. She kept going, and it turned into a fence. And then it wasn't just a fence, then it was a fence for the fairies, to keep the fairies safe. So we've got all the fine and gross motor skills. We've got the problem solving of the snapping sticks. We've got looking at the spacing and the stability of the sticks. We've got the imagination layer added on top when it becomes the fence and then the fairy fence. Now all this thinking and imagination aren't separate. It's all happening at the same time. It's the magic of play gives you that opportunity for that to all happen at once, without the child having to think, oh, I'm learning about how to put sticks in the ground here. It just happens through play. Again, if we're trying to think about, okay, how do we write this in our observations, and we're looking for those EYFS links, you've got art, expressive arts and design. You've got the mathematics with the spacing and the pattern. The creating and thinking critically. It's all in there. Most cool moments of play can very easily be fitted into a wide range of the early learning stuff. I love this picture. Using real tools is where some adults get a little bit twitchy, some parents get a little bit twitchy. That is a real hammer, that is a real nail, that they are real fingers and thumbs. They're not my fingers and thumbs, because if that child hits my finger and thumb with the hammer, that child won't learn that hitting your thumb with a hammer hurts. That child is using hand-eye coordination. They're risk assessing as they go. They are instinctively going to start off tapping it gently because they're going to worry about hitting their own fingers and thumbs. They're going to show persistence when it doesn't go right straight away. You can't replicate this with toy hammers and plastic hammers. That feedback matters. If you get it wrong and you hit your thumb, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to be a serious injury. But if you're learning how to use a hammer, me giving you a toy hammer is not going to help you use a hammer, because you can't hit something hard with a plastic hammer; it'll break. That the action of going through and bending nails and accidentally banging your hand it's very that you will hit your own hand hard enough for it to cause anything other than a bruise. But the amount of learning that you're getting there through the assessing your risk and the hand-eye coordination, the fine motor skills to carry out that activity are huge. So yeah, that's what I really love. Oh, Holly's got a hand up again. Yes, Holly.
There's a question in the chat, Paul. I'm not sure if you can see the chat.
No, I can't see the chat.
That's okay. It's from Bernadette, and she's asking if you might do this activity with the older babies. So I suppose, what ages are we looking at in terms of using tools of this nature?
I think once. Victoria is probably the best person to answer that, because she does much more with the little ones than I do. But I think once they're capable of understanding the concept of a hammer and nail, then yeah. I mean, I've certainly done it with 2-year-olds. I know some people, like, you can do it with like hammers, golf tees and pumpkins and things, can't you? But for me, it is that learning that hitting your own hand hurts, because that's what makes you realize, that's what then gives you the inspiration to be accurate. I hope that answers the question. Right, so I'm going to move on to onto this, which is that again this is going to go into a series of images. This is a child at our setting who found some of the string, the paracord there, and started playing with it, started working out all by herself how to tie some knots and playing with it. And then wanted to build something. Well, what would you like to build? Well, I would like to build a bridge, as you do. Well, to build a bridge, you need something to build it with. So we needed some sticks. So again, we're using real tools. You can see there that her hand is on the. I'm pointing at my screen. You can't see me doing that, can you? I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer, but her hand is on the actual handle of the saw. So she is the one in control of the saw. I'm on the other end helping her. She is bracing the wood. My hand is in front of hers, helping her to brace the wood. Now, from my adult point of view, yes, I'm being able to help. I am actually being able to control the saw and keep that in a safe position. My hand helping her to brace the wood is actually keeping her hand away from the saw blade as well. So, but from her perception, she is in control with her hand on the handle. It is her project. So we together we cut a few rungs for the bridge, and then we tied them together. This here is the same child working out how to tie off this final knot all on her own. Yes, I did help get the rungs in position to make it a usable bridge. But this final knot, that was all her, which did mean then when we attach it to the tree, if you can see, she then helped me tie it to the tree. So that's why there's like quite a collection of rope at either end, because I wasn't going to trust all the weight of the children on that one knot that she'd tied. It was a great knot, and it may well have held, but she wanted that knot attaching to the tree. We then used other rope to attach that knot to the tree. So in her head, she still has ownership of this bridge. It is all her creation. And then you've built a bridge. I'm expecting like back and forth across it. No, they decide it is the perfect thing for sitting, reclining, chilling out. Absolutely not what I expected at all. But that's the thing, they will just do their own thing. Yeah, thrown another quote in there. When children play in natural spaces, they're far more likely to invent their own games than in more structured settings. A key factor in becoming self-directed and inventive adults in later life. Put them outside and they will don't tell them what to do. Let them come up with their own ideas, and everything stays magical. Okay, so I'm very lucky where I am. I've got access to lots of woodland, but what happens if you're not in Winnie the Pooh's backyard and you've only got a smaller space to play in? So here you can see, I really like this. So it was just a few planks of wood that the child put up into made a little step and realized that this step was wobbly. We put 1 foot either side and use it like a mini seesaw and a tippy balance point, and you could play with it. Then worked out that if you put the dinosaur between your legs, you could tip back and forth, trying not to let the dinosaur fall over. If you go too far, as you can see in that second picture, well, then the dinosaur's going to topple. But again, just think about the physics and the physics in the levers involved for the seesaw action, and trying to make that dinosaur wobble and not actually fall over. That's a big thing. I just realized I didn't talk about the EYFS links on the last one because I've kind of gone off script now. But yeah, so the problem solving and everything that goes in here, such great fun. Oh yes, Holly.
I was just going to say, Paul, what really strikes me, that both of these examples are fabulous. I just jotted some things down from the previous slide with the bridge that you were creating, and I wrote things like balance, gravity, resistance, spatial awareness, weight, distribution, and that sort of thing here. And actually what was interesting is when you go on to the next slide, actually it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's just in a different, but it is just done with some different resources and materials in a smaller space. But I think what it demonstrates is you don't need the 100-acre wood, but actually the learning for me is pretty much similar across both of those images.
No, I absolutely agree. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm an before I started doing forest school, I spent 23 years as an aircraft engineer. So I'm kind of a fan of science and physics and stuff. And the amount of physics that the concepts are being learned by 2- and 3-year-olds playing with loose parts, and it's blown my mind a little bit, as I get to understand more about about child development and how the brain processes things, and schematic play, and how that's like digging into the constructs of concepts in the brain. And yeah, you got future astronauts here because they've worked out how to tip stop a dinosaur falling over. I've got a few more. So my boss is on this call, and this one will probably make her chuckle that I've put it in here, because those tires had just been rearranged around the garden, because we had someone come around and they didn't particularly like the tires, and wondered, took some convincing that the children like tires and like playing with tires. So he had moved them and spread them around the garden, and literally as soon as he stepped foot away from the tires, this child piled them all back up exactly how they wanted them and was clambering back and forth along the top of them. So we still have the tires. Yay. I love tires. It's loose parts play. Loose parts are so important. We can see that again here. Again, offcuts of plank and old scaffold boards and old bits of decking and a giant bean bag and whatever you can get hold of. And don't set it up, just have them there, because if you put your input onto it, that's not the child's learning. Then that's taking that away from the child. They need to be the ones to have the autonomy and the power to control their own play. And they will set up things like this time and time again. You've got collaboration, the spatial awareness, like it's early engineering. They're designing systems, they're testing them, and they're inviting others to play on these systems. It's maths again, it's PSED, it's all in there, and it's a wonderful thing. I think I'm nearly there. I don't know how long I've been. I haven't really been paying attention, sorry.
It's okay, Paul, it's fine. Victoria thinks she might struggle to have her presentation just because of the signal, but we'll give it a go.
Oh, that's okay. We can talk about more cool stuff.
There is a question in the chat,
okay,
Paul, from Lucy. She just wants some advice about training as a forest school leader. There are so many courses at a great cost, but what do we actually need to run a session? She's got scouting, she's a scout leader, so she's got experience of children aged 4 to 14, outdoor activities, risk. What else will she get from the Forest Schools course that she might not have already?
Okay, well, I mean, this is quite it's quite straightforward, but also really complicated all at the same time. So if you want to just do outdoor play sessions, there is no that you can literally do that with any or/no qualification, as long as you can find someone to insure you. You can do what you like. Also, you can run forest school sessions and call it forest school without having any forest school qualifications. No one's going to come and arrest you or shut you down. Again, as long as you can get insurance, you're good to go. That said, forest school isn't suitable for every setting. I am a huge advocate of forest school, but just getting outside and playing is so important. And there's a whole raft of outdoor courses out there. You can do full-on play theory. The Playmaker courses are really good. If you want to do forest school, you need to do a reputable level 3 forest school training. There are some that are online only. Personally, I wouldn't recommend using an online only forest school trainer, because it's such a tactile, immersive thing to try and learn all that from videos and PowerPoints in front of your computer. I genuinely don't understand how that can work. And the Forest School Association tends to agree with that, because if you've done an online only forest school course, you can't become a recognized provider from the Forest School Association. Then if you decide, yes, no, I definitely do want to do forest school, so I'm going to do a level 3 with a trainer, well, then it's just finding the right trainer, you know. There's literally hundreds and hundreds. So depending on your area, the best ways I think to find them are either the Forest School Association website, because all their recognized trainers are listed on there, or the Cambium Sustainable website, which is a big network of forest school trainers. That's who I'm a Cambium forest school trainer. I also have 2 courses running in September, one in Stamford, one in Norwich. So if either of those are any good for you, give me a shout. But yeah, so it's easy. Find someone close to you who you trust, and yeah, just do the course, but make sure that forest school is right for your setting first.
Thanks, Paul. That's really good advice.
All right, so this is Forest School for Life. This is us. This is stewardship at our heart, sustainability in our practice, making a difference in every moment. Now that's our motto, if you like. And don't worry, although we've got 10 slides, they're not all very text heavy. But there was quite a lot I wanted to share, really, because the passion that came behind setting this up really comes through whenever I talk about the setting. And like I say, this came from becoming a parent and really wanting to make a difference to what was on offer in our local area. And we are going back 20 years ago now, so happy to say that there's lots more outdoor settings out there, but again, we do have our unique selling points, which are really around the mixed age. So at Forest School for Life, babies are not an add-on to our provision, they're the foundation of it. Our environment, our routines and our curriculum are shaped from the youngest children upwards, and that ensures that our babies have high quality care, secure relationships and rich learning from their very first day. So we see our babies as whole people with rights, agency and curiosity, and our pedagogy begins with listening, attunement and relationships with their families. And babies come to us to experience nature with their whole bodies. So I think as we touched on, you know, we were one of the first, or certainly one of the only ones in our area who brought babies into a forest school environment. And like Paul has said, you know, all of those, the independence, the risk taking, the physical development, the sense of agency, etc., etc. You know, all of those things have to start somewhere. And so we thought, well, let's start with babies and let's see what happens. Now, we didn't have a blueprint to work from, so we really were instinctively working to deliver something that we felt was attuned to what the babies needed. You know, the babies, they do come to us for a completely different reason. They don't look at a traditional setting and then come to us as a, well, you might have availability. For us, it's a lifestyle choice. And for the families that choose us, it is a lifestyle choice. You know, we really hope that they come to us when they're very young, and they do 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 years with us before they transition in and become really independent, capable learners. Yeah, what it looks like in reality is, you know, the staff all forest schools probably work more physically harder, in that we're working in the elements. You know, we all sleep really well. I know Paul will probably agree with that. You know, you go home and you're a different kind of tired. You're really in tune with nature. You're really in tune with the seasons, and it's a really healthy kind of tiredness. And we live that day to day with our children. you know, the outdoors does offer great physical freedom, but it also encourages that risk taking that Paul's talking about, and it builds early strength and resilience. And those skills are foundational to creative thinkers when it comes to more traditional education. But, and here's the but, because yes, it's beautiful to take babies outside, and you can Instagram and it can all look perfect, but it's hard. You know, working with children outdoors is really hard, and it isn't for everybody. Forest schools is definitely a long-term approach, not a one-term adventure. So through consistent presence and gentle boundaries, our babies begin to feel a sense of belonging. So they're learning rules and rituals that support their transitions into toddlerhood. But what a baby experiences in winter, for example, is very different to what they might experience in the summer. However, if you put it all together, you've got what I would call an inclusive, rich and quite healthy curriculum. We go to the next slide. Thank you. So we opened up in 2022, and in 2023 we signed up to the Baby Project with Norfolk Early Years team. Simultaneously, I completed the Masters at Pengreen, which opened up an opportunity to research the experiences of our babies, because there was me saying, hand on heart, this is fantastic, this is the best thing for babies, you know, get them out early. But actually it was set up instinctively. What happened doing all of this research really gave us the foundations to, you know, stand upon the shoulders of the giants, if you like, to be able to say, well, actually, this is why these things feel right, because people have researched them and they have said why it's so brilliant and why it's, you know, if we look back to the pioneers of early years education, you know, they're all saying about mixed ages, and we're talking about children having their own gardens, and we're talking about outdoor education. But then you move so many hundreds of years to where we are today, and actually it looks very different in traditional practice. And why has that transition happened, and why are we not looking at going back to basics almost? So my dissertation focused on the baby's experiences in our mixed age all outdoor environment, and the results were really, really encouraging. However, they did open up such a huge scope for opportunities to improve. We go to the next slide, Holly. And then a click again. So really, in order to improve our practice for the babies and to give them the most rich experiences we possibly could, we had to really draw back to our vision and values. And at the heart of our forest school, making a difference. And that's through bravery and community impact and stewardship, not just of the land and the children, but of our team and of future generations. And that's delivered through our mixed age all outdoor learning. And we see that as a right and not as a luxury. So to put it into perspective, this is a high-level map, not quite to scale, of our setting. Again, similarly to Paul, I can't point on the screen to show you where we are, but if at top right, we have a number 2 here, and that's our entrance exit, and the children come in the morning and they go into what we call the roost, which is a holding space, a transitional space, and it's meant to be somewhere that's very sensory and very attuned to the children's needs in the morning, following on from that transition, perhaps from a nice warm car, for example, just to settle them in gently into their routine. We have a small fire pit, and we maybe sing some songs and talk about the intentions for the day. And obviously, if you can imagine that around the fireside, you've got the babies on the practitioners' laps and integrated with the older children. It's a really beautiful scene. After about an hour, the babies then set off. They follow these little footsteps down the track and they make their way to the den. And in the den, which is at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, where you can see the yurt and the fences and all the trees here, that's where they will spend maybe 60% of their day. And again, because that space is it's shared with all of the children through all of the areas, you know, it can be quite busy. So part of the research was to discuss what we did and how we could make it better for the babies. So if we move on to the next slide. Here we go. So our curriculum, our intentions. So for the babies, the curriculum's very sensory, highly attuned, and hugely child-led. So it's hands-on experiential learning. Now, through this research, we tracked 6 babies over 10 weeks, which was just really a snapshot. But from that, we've continued to follow the babies through their journey. So this was a couple of years ago now. And really, the impact of that research is still seen today, which is fantastic. And here you can see a couple of pictures of our children investigating, exploring. We've had some rain there, and they're picking up worms, I think, from the puddle. And then underneath you've got a little one who's squelched down a barrel and is using it to bounce herself up and down. That was absolutely fantastic watching that. We had a series of observations with that little girl. But our observations showed that our babies are travelling so much further than we'd realised. So they're moving confidently away from their safe spaces, exploring, returning and setting off, and getting really rich emotional, physical and even artistic development opportunities. Obviously, we're looking at exploring the world, but because they weren't contained in a small area, they're naturally experiencing less literacy, communication and language moments. This was a really interesting conversation that we had as a team. It led to conversations about what the babies were telling us they wanted rather than what we assumed they wanted. So at the same time, we held some really, and they were very difficult conversations, very hard conversations about worrying that we maybe weren't offering the babies everything we possibly could. So this reflective tension through the team helped us to see that we could honour their exploratory journeys and strengthen their early communication experiences, so long as we held the babies' voices at the heart of our termly planning. So we move on to the next one. Again, when we're doing the research, we're looking at the babies, we're considering them as our co-researchers, and that really helped us to shape the outcome of all of this research. Watching the babies interact day to day, it's teaching us how to design the spaces to meet their expectations, but also to provide lots and lots of challenge to create these lovely resilient learners. We'll move on. And again, the process, so seeing our babies as partners, this reciprocal dance of attunement and agency. Our relationships in our setting are built on give and take, and the babies set the rhythm of their own rest and comfort, which again means it's a lot of work for the practitioners, treating every baby as an individual, but really that is foundational to them then becoming these curious toddlers who can really engage in the Forest School curriculum. And we'll move on. So the so what? Again, so we'll come to the end here because we honour each child as an individual and their sleeping patterns vary so much as babies. We decided to begin every day with an intentional baby hour. So this is where we looked at what we were currently doing and how we could do it better. So actually having that first hour of the day completely undisturbed, baby focused, heuristic play, often musical, and this has become quite a beautiful part of starting our day, giving each baby a really slow, high quality interaction before they join the mixed age den. So we're not taking away the mixed age, but we are slowing it down and introducing intentional baby time. So we've realised that their journeys had the opportunity to be more intentional and richer, and this led us to introduce a fairy walk through our wider woodland. So again, we looked at the site and we decided that actually we could extend the time at which they are walking through the woods, toddling through the woods, and they could actually see the world differently. So we made physical infrastructure changes so the babies now have a fairy walk that goes through this woodland, and again it slows the pace so the babies can notice the detail rather than rushing to the end point. And this nature walk extends their morning by about 30 minutes, which is really gorgeous, which I'll show you in one of the videos at the end. I think we're nearly there. Further now what? So this is where we reflect as a team, and we really hope that we've struck the right balance for the babies. We've protected some quality time, slowed, and made the nature experiences so much richer through these extended trails. We've still got the mixed benefits of mixed age play, and as a team constantly we're reflecting, reviewing, and because the seasons and nature's elements do shape everything we do, every term is different, so it doesn't matter what we plan. Part of Forest Schools is spontaneity and actually reacting to the learner in the moment. Now we're slowing down all of our morning routines and holding on to that protected time, making space for the babies before any other transition begins. And during our seasonal planning, we now make sure that the baby team meet in advance of any planning to bring a collective voice to the table to ensure that even the smallest voices shape the day and are always really well representative. So we continue to reflect as a team and as a community. And I think that's really important. And we move on, and then these are the two videos. They're only 2 minutes each. The first one on the left, this practitioner Sadie, she's absolutely fantastic. She's one of your apprentices, Holly, at Pen Green. So Sadie here is part of a wider group. There are about 10 practitioners on the day. They're making their journey up to the den, and she's at the back of the tribe, and these two little ones have just noticed something curious in the hedgerow, so she has stopped. Now the only thing that ruins the moment is me with my clumsy camera skills. But otherwise it's a really nice example of how a baby and a toddler are interacting in an outdoor environment. So if we play that first, and then we can go into the second one, and this is really the end of the presentation, we can reflect afterwards. But little baby Zoe, she then finds her way into the den, and again it's really nice to see that sense of agency. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
Mom, I'm doing a picture. Wow. Wow. I'm doing a picture. The what? And the look. Because to a break. It's a bus. Big bus. A big bus.
No, not a big bus.
I need a wheel. Need a wheel. Have a wheel. And then the road. And the road. And the boat. And those the face. What happened to the face?
Oh, that is so lovely. Do you want me to play the next one, Victoria?
If we've got time, it is lovely.
Yeah, I'll play it.
I'm using for planning it all. Jump down from you. Because your hand, please.
So this is her daily routine. She comes in and she takes all her kit off where she feels comfortable, and then she's making her way to a central fire pit. The particular area of mud here, I mean, we're clay based, so we're really sticky, and she knows that because she's fallen there several times before. So it was really lovely to see her asking for help. Yeah, and there she is, and she's chosen to sit there, which again was a new experience for her. Normally she would sit somewhere else, but it was really nice to see her sort of expressing her own views and opinions. And that's that really, and just really to say that, you know, we're really passionate about getting babies outside any which way that can happen, through a forest school or through an outdoor setting. And you know, we've been working more recently with traditional settings in order to encourage them to spend more time and have the confidence to get the babies outside. Quite often it's more of an infrastructural challenge, because baby rooms are sometimes placed upstairs in buildings, but that's another story, and we're always available to help, advise, and we do a lot of training in setting with traditional settings, which is very exciting.
With the babies, so this I think aimed at you, Victoria. With the babies, is it something you would encourage to explore the woods with shoes on? As I know the setting I'm at, lots of the children are always exploring with their feet.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was only, in fact, that particular week that we were filming, a couple of the older children took their shoes and socks off, went straight into the mud, just had a whale of a time, and before you knew it, they were taking all the shoes and socks off all the other children, including the babies, and they love it. And I think the more barefoot play they've got, the only rules we have are you have to have your shoes on in the fire pit and in the tool area. Aside from that, it's barefoot all the way, and a lot of the practitioners spend the days barefoot.
Lisa's got a question. What age would you say for a younger baby to explore the woodland area?
Well, Lisa, we work with our gold standard ratio for babies. Our under ones have a 1-to-1, really, so that we can 100% hold them and be their limbs, if you like, and be their risk assessment. You know, everything's very mouth, isn't it, orientated at that age, and everything goes in. So in order to ensure that they can really engage with the environment successfully, we give them a 1-to-1. So for that reason, we take them from 6 months.
Yeah,
I think if they're properly dressed, Lisa, and the area is properly risk assessed, and that you are happy and comfortable, then there's no reason you can't get a crawling baby outside. 100%.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
Yeah, really important. I'm conscious of time now. Has anybody got any other final remarks or anything else they want to ask whilst we've got Paul and Victoria? I think it's been brilliant, a really good insight. But no, I think it's been a really interesting. I think one of the things I just jotted down, you know, is starting with, I think Victoria mentioned it, starting with your vision and your values. That can be a really good start point if you're trying to develop your, you know, your provision and staff buy-in and things like that, because, you know, outdoor, some people are really, you know, really excited to be outside, and obviously it's not for everybody. So starting with those vision and values is really useful way to move forward.